And to think about life in general and begin to think how far as a people of God that we have come. But still we have a long way to go. And I think all of us would admit that we still have a long way to go. Even though Pharaoh is dead, in our black communities, I am concerned that Pharaoh's spirit is alive and well, because we have too many people and too many things going on in our society that is trying to keep us in bondage. I looked at and thought about the entire Israel crossing the Red Sea. I thought about the entire story of the Israelites who had prayed to God for deliverance. And when God delivered them, they started to complain. Isn't that like too many of us today? We ask God for something, and when God delivers us, we start to complain in how things are. The Israelites were a complaining people, and even though God had been good to them and delivered them from under bondage, they still were a complaining people. In the text this morning, I pray as I stand calmly this morning and talk to all of us. Amen. Amen. Look at your neighbor and say he's going to stand calmly this morning and talk to all of us. I see, first of all, the power of God in Exodus chapter 14. I see how God can take our enemies and how God can turn things around for our good, even when the enemy desire is to harm us. We can look all through the Word of God, and particularly in Exodus chapter 14. We can see the power of God is displayed, or the power of God is at work when we move beyond our possibilities. We can see the power of God at work. In our text, the Hebrew slaves, or the Israel slaves, found themselves in this familiar story. They were surrounded by what seemingly is an impossible situation. But how many of us know that God works best when it looks like things are impossible? That's when God is at his best. Seemingly, it is impossible. Before them was a sea called the Red Sea. Beside them was a desert. And behind them was the enemy. So in the text, these just freed slaves, they had three choices that they could make. They could go back to Egypt and live in slavery. Am I talking to you this morning? And I've heard so many people telling us that we ought to go back. You can go back all you want, amen. I like where I'm at, amen, amen. I ain't not going back to picking no cotton. No, no. You don't want to go back, amen. They had a choice to go back into slavery. And remember, it was them who cried unto God while they were in slavery. And it was God who sent Moses to them to deliver them out of slavery. And at the first sign of trouble, they wanted to go back. They could go back. The other choice that they had was to stand still, because Moses tells them to stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. But let me tell you something about standing still. Standing still is only a temporary position, because you cannot go forward if you just choose to stand still. So the first choice was to do what? Go back. The second choice was to stand still. And the third choice was to do what? Go forward. They had three choices to make. Either go back to slavery, stand still, or they were to go forward. Out of the three, this is what God commanded them to do. God's command was for them to go forward. What seemed like an impossible situation.